Well, welcome back to another Halloween-themed assembly video. Today we're putting together our haunted outhouse. And as you can see, it looks like a lot of different pieces, but most of these are just little details that we'll be adding to our final product here to sort of take it to another level, which we typically do with all of our projects. So let's jump right in here and take a look at what we have. I'm actually going to begin with constructing the base for our outhouse. So you want to find this piece here, and I don't know if you noticed, but I added a extra light that gives me a little bit more of a downlight. Leave a comment on this video if you notice the difference. Hopefully it will make your assembly experience a little bit better. But anyway, we're going to start off with gluing the tabs closest to the hinged part of the base. So go ahead and get your glue ready. And I just opened up a fresh bottle, so it's really coming out. And start there. And I folded this back so I can get my finger in there and hold this. It makes it a lot easier to hold. Initially, I thought, well, this would be great, a great addition to the many little structures that we already have, like the barn. We've got a couple haunted houses. There's even some Halloween-themed fairy villages. Obviously, this will be a nice addition to that. This one's a little bit oversized, but you can shrink it down. Kind of based the size around those little submersible tea lights that we use and feature in many of our projects. But you can absolutely shrink it down, as many of you are really into the whole miniatures thing, which I think is cool too. All right, so next up is this tab here. And you can see my glue is really coming out with a lot of force, so I'm trying not to overdo it, and then I'll be hitting it with my finger just to kind of thin it out. We'll go ahead and close this side up and just hold that in place. But ultimately, I think what I'm going to do with this is, well, I've got a little boy that I've been raising for a little while now named Gavin, who I think would appreciate this as a cute little nightlight. So we'll put this together, and I've ordered a few extra submersible lights, and I mean, I think all kids are like this. They forget to turn the lights off everywhere, which is frustrating. So maybe find something with a timer so that you're not putting new batteries in every other day. But go ahead and close this one up, but I think he'll appreciate this as a little Halloween nightlight. I know when Halloween time came around, I really loved any sort of little Halloween decor that I could add to my room, so I think that will be special for him. But again, many of you already have a lot of our little Halloween structures, so this will add to it. Okay, so I'm putting glue on the last little triangular tab. We're going to pop that right behind this section here. Press and hold that down, let that set. Okay, so essentially all we're doing right now is just creating a box, a nice thin box. Okay, and we got all those ready to go. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put glue on all these tabs here. I'm going to go easy on it again until, this is why I kind of almost like when my glue bottle clogs up a little bit, because it kind of thins out the nozzle. And I know you can buy little adapters to thin it out, but those get clogged and sometimes it's not enough glue. So I just kind of work with my tool that I have here, the standard stock bottle, and just kind of feel it out, you know, get a feel for how the glue's flowing and just adapt to it. Very easy to adapt to it, not hard at all. Okay, so there it is. We've got glue on the tabs all the way out to the edge, and I'm going to go ahead and push this down. I just want to make sure you line it up with the side opposite of the side that is already hinged. If you need to give the walls a little bit of a nudge, you can do so. Get those nice and lined up. And just press down right along the very edge where the wall, the vertical wall, meets this little top piece that we're putting down. Okay. And there we have it. And there we go. Okay. And if you take a look around the perimeter here, just make sure that everything's making good contact. If it's not, chances are that glue is still tacky enough to where you can press down a little bit and then it will hold. So feel free to do that. Okay, next thing we're going to do is we have this little lip that we're going to add, and that's going to hold our little tea light in place so that it doesn't go flailing around should we decide that we want to move this. Okay, so we've got a little triangle there. Go ahead and put your glue on that. I'm going to fold that down so that when I use my finger to kind of spread that glue around, it doesn't make its way onto this surface. Okay, we can achieve that by just folding it down at an angle that's enough to get it out of the way. And we're going to glue it to this piece here, which is identical. And all I'm doing right now is folding it over onto itself. The two pieces are now connected. I'm folding them onto themselves here and just making sure that this line here is nice and straight, and then these tabs should meet up precisely. And that's an indicator that we have it perfectly lined up. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and close this up now. Put some glue on our tab here. Kind of thin that out, and we can do this flat. So just pop that down on your surface, make sure the tab is exposed, and press down the other side. And it should join exactly where it needs to. And just press and hold that for a moment. There we go. Okay, so the idea here is to take this piece, and we're going to take this square with a square cut out of it and just pop it through the center, like so. You can flip this over, and we're just going to glue these tabs to the underside of this section here. We don't need to spread that glue out or anything. I'm going to just do one and get it anchored. Make sure it's nice and flush up against that side. Press that down so it's like that. We'll go over to the other side. It's a nice little thin line. That was probably actually too much. That would have ended up squirting out. We don't want that. Fold that over. There we go. Okay, and finish it off with the other two here. We can do both of these at the same time. It shouldn't be a problem. Fold them over, press down. Okay. And then all we need to do is glue this on top of our base here. It doesn't matter which side, just like that. Okay, and we're gonna put glue. Let's see, you know what, we could, well, I'm gonna put it on here actually. We'll just do this. And you don't really need to get glue on every single inch of this. I'm kind of focusing on this area here, and then I'll do a nice thin line along the perimeter so I can spread that glue out all the way to the very edges here so that I can give it a nice seamless look and feel, just like that. And then it's literally just putting a square flush onto another square that we've already built, like so. Just make sure you've got it nice and aligned, nice and centered. If you have to give it a little bit of a nudge here or there, feel free. And even if you're off a tiny little bit, don't fret, because we have some elements that are going to go around this, and it's going to hide any little imperfections that may be there. So don't worry too much about this. Just get it in place. Okay, so it should end up looking like this. And I'm just taking a look at my edges, making sure everything's making good contact. And I'll say that that is pretty darn good. In which case, I can move on to the next section, which is this guy here. Okay, and anytime I use any inks, I'll mention it. So I actually used a gray ink on this gray piece, and what we're going to do is we're going to glue this to the perimeter, and as you can see, like I said, we'll hide any of these little imperfections. And one thing, let me see here. So this side here, you don't want to glue this down yet. We're going to start off by gluing this section, and then this tiny little section down first. Okay, and I'll show you why. So just make sure that you glue this section that's connected to this tiny little tabbed area here. And because this thing is a little bit larger, I'm actually going to put the glue onto the side here so that I know exactly where it needs to go. And I'm going to spread that glue out a little bit. And we'll pop that right on. And just use the little corner pieces here, right where the folds are, as a guide, and just use your finger to kind of feel the base of this and make sure everything is nice and flush with the bottom. Okay, we don't want that sticking out below the bottom. Hold that in place for just a moment, let it set. Okay, that's a winner. And then we can take and glue this little tab down. So just put a little bit of glue right about here, fold that over, press and hold. Again, make sure that that's nice and flush as well, like so. All right, and then we can move our way over to the next section. And this next section is going to go on top of this piece here. And we've done that to make everything nice and seamless so there's no black gaps showing up. And in which case, we can go ahead and get our glue and apply it to this section here, like so. And we'll pop this in place. Again, using the fold where the score lines are as sort of a guide as far as placement. And then of course running our fingers along the bottom to make sure that this is nice and flush with the actual base. We're going to hold that down for just a moment. Okay. Now we can fold this back and we'll apply our glue to this next section. And it's a little bit easier when it's on a solid surface here. Okay. There we go. And we'll fold that down. Again, make sure it's nice and flush with the bottom. And this piece should wrap around nicely around where this little fold is here. So just hold that in place for a moment. Okay. Now, you can take and just glue this little folded area down, like so. Okay. And finally, you can close it all up. Apply your glue like so. Spread that nice and thin. There we go. Okay. And fold that over. Check and make sure it's nice and flush with the base. And voila. Okay. So we do have some additional elements to jazz this up even more, make it look creepy. Okay. And that's these little grass pieces here. These are going to go right on the very corners. We're just going to glue them down like so. Okay, I believe, let me double check before I eat my words here, but I believe that these are all pretty much the same size. They are. So one thing you do want to try to accomplish here though is you'll notice that, let's see, well, no, these are all identical actually. No, they're not. Ah, okay. So you'll notice that when we put this one here on this corner, this little blade of grass is coming out to the left. So keep that in mind. You don't want it to be like this, where it's like that. Okay, because this little blade of grass that's going to the right, we're going to want that one here. It's going to make it look more full from certain angles, okay? Hopefully that makes sense. It should. And we'll just apply our glue. You know what we can do here, hold on a second. And I'm just going to put glue right on the back of this. You don't need to get glue on every single little inch of this for it to stay. It's a very small and light piece. So a little bit of glue will go a long way. And just like we did with the first little overlay, this gray piece, it's AC slate actually, just make sure that this is nice and flush with the bottom, okay? And then we'll move on to this side here. I'm gonna do the same thing, just throw a little bit of glue right on the center towards the bottom of that. And pop that into place, like so. Okay. And then if we want towards the end, what we can do is take a little dowel and train these to kind of flare them out a little bit so they're not so boring looking. Not that they're boring looking, we've inked them and embossed them, but if you want to add a little bit more interest to it, you can certainly just give them a little bit of ink, or I'm sorry, train them a little bit. Okay, so that's going like that. And then the last one here, get some glue on this guy and pop that into place like so, and bam. Okay, so our base is ready to go. As I mentioned, that little tea light, that submersible one's gonna go right in there, and just because I mentioned it, I may as well just show it real quick. If you want, you can get a little dowel and just take these little grasses and just train them back a little bit. Pull them away from the actual base ever so slightly. Bring them to life a little bit. Okay, now this may flatten out over time, but for the most part, it should hold a little bit. Because what we're doing is we're kind of stretching and forming, not forming, but yeah, we're kind of stretching and shaping and pulling and tugging on the paper fibers when we do that. And they tend to naturally just kind of stay like that once you do it. Okay, so there you have it. Okay, so our base is done. We can move on to the actual structure itself. And before we do that though, there are some pieces, and I kind of like to do this because it gets rid of stuff that is just simple paper piecing. And we're going to do that, like I said, just to get it out of the way. There are some really old, decrepit little planks that go on the back of our haunted outhouse. And they're made up, in our case, this slate color with a black background. So we're going to glue this right on top of this black background. And I have gone ahead and inked and also embossed this. I forgot who, I think it was Chris, our friend from Florida, who turned me on to. She made a joke and said, well, this is the first time I've made you spend money, but I actually bought a few new embossing folders from Stampin' Up. I was not thrilled when I realized that they make their embossing folders a lot thicker than your typical ones, so I had to I didn't want to spend another $120 on their embossing machine, and the ones that I have aren't exactly customizable as far as pressure, so I really had to kind of fudge things to make it work, but you can see that little wood grain texture. It looks really cool. There's some other ones too that we're going to try. So that one goes there, and then this one's a little bit shorter. So again, we're going to take the slate color and glue it down to the coordinating black shadow piece, and we'll get that in place. And then you can see here in front of me, I've got a beware sign, and this is where I had even more fun today, because you'd think that that's a print and cut element, but it's not. I actually hand drew that, and I'll take you through that in a second. It's kind of fun. Okay, so there we go. There's our second piece. We got a few more little paper piecing sections that we need to put together, and I'll walk you through that here. So again, we didn't include like a print and cut on this, and I was going to, and I talked to Ron about it, and he said, well, if we do that, it's not going to look as decrepit. And I agreed with him, and I was hesitant to have to kind of write this out, but it worked. So what I ended up doing, and I guess I'll just do this on a scrap piece of paper, start off, and this is fun. We're making it fun. You got to make it fun. Okay, let's just pretend we have the cutout here, and you can always practice on a scrap piece of paper, or just cut out maybe two of these and practice on one if you don't like it. And actually, the best thing to do, and this is what I did, was I started off with a pencil. And then that way, if I goof up, I can literally just erase it. And I went very light and just kind of just wrote out, beware, okay? Focus on your spacing as well. And it's a lot easier, actually, and it's a lot cooler if you just make things as wonky as possible. It doesn't have to be perfect, okay? So I'm right now just going very lightly with my pencil. And take a look at the final photo of how we drew this out, and just try to replicate that. I mean, everybody, especially our demographic, I mean, we grew up working on cursive, okay? So there it is. Now, you can't really see that very well, and I didn't center it very well because it's a lot bigger than this cutout here. I kind of just drew like a hot dog there. And then once you have it in pencil, you can go over it with a red marker. Now, if you don't like it, obviously, just erase it. Once you actually put and do it with the marker, you're not going to see the pencil. And I think a lot of artists do their work this way anyway. I'm sure Ron will attest to that. And then just grab, I used a nice fine point. That way I could go in and start off with just a single stroke. Okay, and if I didn't like that, I could thicken it up by just doing another stroke. And just work it around around the pencil. And actually, don't worry about it being perfect, because it's a Halloween project. So the worse it looks, almost the better. But obviously, you want it to be legible. Okay, so that's not bad. That came out really cool, actually. And then if you want, add a little exclamation point to it. And there you go. I can't wait to see you guys try this, because it's fun. I'll be honest, I was intimidated. Because I was like, well, that looks like a font, but hey, it's Halloween, it's cool. Just go with it, okay? All right, so this piece is gonna go on here, just like the other two planks that we had. We're gonna glue this down, get this in place. And then we've got a few more little paper piecing things to do, and then we can start putting together the bones of our little outhouse. Okay, so obviously that's gonna go like so. What we're doing is we're matching everything up towards the top of our black shadow section, and then the bottom of it is almost like a little drop shadow. It kind of gives it a dimensional feel and look. I like the way that came out. Okay, so there we have that. Let me see, I'll put that off to the side along with my base. A couple other things I just want to go through here. These are the stray little shingles for the top of the roof. I also inked and ran these through that embossing machine in that folder. That looked really cool. Let's see what else we have here. Okay, we've got a little door handle that we need to assemble. Okay, and the skinnier part is going to be towards the bottom, and the brown part is going to be aligned on the left side of the black shadow. And I just put way too much glue on that, so I'm going to try to dab a little bit of that and work it down towards the bottom. That's perfect. And we'll get that in place just to get that ready. So that's going to look something like that. And I got tons of ink on my finger. I was doing a lot of inking today, getting pre-prepped for all these projects. And you can see what that handle looks like there. Okay, put that off to the side. And let's see what else we have here. There's two little hinges that go on the side of the door. There are two sets of score marks on here, so you want to kind of fold them into like an S shape or a Z shape. Okay, so those, nothing you need to do with those, just get those ready. Now there's also actually one other plank that goes on the door, so we do want to get that glued down and get that together. Okay. Get that in place. Oh boy. Well, that landed That landed optimally. And there we go. Okay, so that piece is ready to go, just like that. Obviously, you need to find the little black section that, well, that fits and corresponds with that. And you know what I just realized? Oh no, we're good. Okay. While we're at it here, we have this ghost and this gray piece. We're gonna put the door on this, okay? And we can just glue this down to the gray section here. We'll get that out of the way, and then we can glue our ghost down as well. And once we get the ghost glued down, I'm going to train him a little bit just to kind of make him look like he's not so flat. I'll show you that in a second here. But you want to make sure that you get this nice and accurately lined up with the gray background shadow section. Okay, oh, and actually I'm all over the place right now, but I went on Amazon, and we'll make sure to link this, but I found like 8 packs of these black foam squares. I want to say it was like 14 bucks. It was a really good deal. Okay, and now we're gonna pop the ghost on here. Just make sure that we get that in place. It should kind of meet like a little puzzle piece right here next to the door. So let's get that glued into place. Just kind of working through the sections here, getting rid of things as we go, so that all we're left with are the pieces required to actually put our outhouse together. Okay, I think we might need a little more glue here. There we go. Okay, and just focus on plugging in the little area with the puzzle piece kind of connector there first, and then the rest of it should just naturally fall into place. And now while this is setting, I can take this and just slightly bend right around in this area here, give it a little bit of a curve. It's better to do it now before the glue sets, otherwise you'll kind of peel it off. And then maybe right at the neck a little bit, at the head, just so that it's kind of curved a little bit, so it's not so straight. Okay, and you'll see, once we actually put the house together and get the door in place, you'll see how this will all play out. You don't have to overdo it, just a little bit. Okay, so that piece is good to go. We'll worry about the embellishments later on once we actually have this in place. I don't want to risk messing it up. Okay, another little paper piecing thing that we can do here. Now, we've got 2 of these. Okay, there's one for the back that's just 1 layer thick, but we did 2 layers on this because of this little feature here. We wanted it to be nice and sturdy, so we added 2 layers to this so it doesn't go drooping and sagging on you. So get your glue on this piece here. Try to work that glue out to the edges, like so. And just match this up. This should be a perfect fit, like so. Pardon my head. I'll pull that off my table. I can use my fingers to make sure that the alignment is spot on. Okay, so that looks good. You can put that off to the side if you want. You can actually put that underneath your mat, let that dry nice and flat. And finally, as far as paper piecing goes, we do have a little bat. Oh, we can't forget the ghost. We got another ghost here. Let's get this ghost glued down. There's a bat, and for those of you that have put together our Grizzly, I think it's Grizzly Manor, the Grizzly haunted house, and then there was another one that was like this tea light project. It was a haunted house, but it was kind of flat, and it had compartments for tea lights in the back of it. We did this thing where we suspended some bats on some really thin wire to, you know, give it that little extra spook. And that's what we're going to do again today with just 1 bat. So we'll do that next here and get that out of the way and let that bat really set before we start, you know, putting them into place here. Okay, so also while this ghost is drying, bring his arms in a little bit, so curve them. You can see how it's naturally curving in. It's best to do that now, as I mentioned, while the glue has not fully set, because when it does set, it'll kind of keep it in this position even more so than just training it with the paper. The glue kind of will dry in that position and it'll look cool. Okay, I'm kind of bringing the head in a little bit too, not too much, but definitely the arms. Okay, so there's our cute ghost. I don't know if he's cute actually. He looks a little scary this time. Okay, and now we've got our bat. So we've got black for both sides, and then here's our wire. So what I'm going to do, actually, we'll worry about the wire in a second here. Start with one of the black sections here, and get your glue on him. Just go very easy on the glue on this. A little bit will do quite a bit of work here, so don't overdo it. Okay. There we go. And we'll pop that right on there, onto the gray shadow layer. There we go. Okay. And then we're going to do the same thing with this black piece, but what we're going to do is we're going to take this wire and we're going to actually glue it and adhere it in between the body of our bat so that we can have some fun with it later on when we attach it to the actual outhouse. I don't think anyone's going to really want to use this outhouse. It looks really creepy. I know I wouldn't want to go pee there in the middle of the night, I'll tell you that. Okay. Or anything for that matter. All right, let's get our glue. I'm going to go a little bit thicker on the main part of the body. Just do some dots along the wing. Reminds me of my cat's head. Okay, and just sandwich that wire right in the center, like so. Get that nice and aligned, as accurate as you can get it. That looks pretty good. You can just press and hold until it fully sets. There we go. It's a very nice thin wire. I don't even know what the gauge is. We'll make sure to specify that in the supply list. And there you have it. Got our little bat on the wire, and we're going to take this, and we don't have to do this now, but I may as well show you what we're going to do. We'll take this and just kind of curl or wrap the wire around a dowel. Okay, and then when we take it off, it'll kind of be a little springy. You can probably bring it up even more, or actually just twist it. Anyway, you get the idea. And we're going to take this and just glue this to a part of the back of the little outhouse when the time comes, okay? But that's what you're doing there. And then I'm going to throw some little rhinestones on there for his eyeballs. But that's that. And I think we're ready for the main bones of the house. Now, before we get into that, find the main bones. These are the black pieces here. And we're going to get our vellum into place. I'm not overly concerned with the appearance of the inside of this. Technically, if you wanted to, if you want to polish, well, yeah, you could. You could do this. If you don't want to see the vellum from the inside, you can glue the vellum to the outside of the black and then sandwich it in between these sections here. That's an option, okay? But I'm not gonna do that. No one's really going to be staring at the inside of this, and this is going to make my life easier doing it from the inside. So that's what I'm going to do. And in order to do that, I am actually just going to use a series of dots, and I'm going to try to keep these dots as far away from these little cutouts as possible so that the glue doesn't bleed into these areas and sort of blemish the vellum. Just dots. No one's going to see it from the inside, so you can certainly do that. Not going to hurt anything, okay? And when you put this down, I would start up at the top. Just kind of follow, pop that down there, hold it at one point, and then grab it from the other side and bring it down. And ideally, you'll have it nice and centered. And there you can see how nice that looks from that side. Okay, so of course we need to find this piece here that's flat on the top, doesn't have that little gable, that A-frame. And we'll do the same thing, just using dots. Okay, and just go around. Tiny little dots, don't need a lot. Okay, and again, we'll get the top aligned first. Press that, hold that down, grab the other side, make sure it's centered, and press that down. There we go. Okay, so that looks nice. That looks nice. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. Like that. Get our glue in place here. I'm hoping we could probably pull this one off in about an hour. That's probably a good time for a project like this. Of course, that does not include the cutting, but the cutting, especially if you've got a Cricut Maker, Cricut Explorer, the cutting is a breeze. You just put it all in. It tells you how many mats you need, tells you when to load what. It really just makes things easier. Not the greatest software, but definitely most user-friendly experience. Okay, and the last one here, and then we've got two more for the roof. So we'll just do that. So how are you guys doing so far? Hopefully good. How many times have you told me to slow down? I'm curious. Hopefully none. I feel like I go at a pretty good pace. And there we go. Are your fingers sticky yet? Mine aren't. Just really shouldn't be. Okay. All right, so we've got our vellum on the main structure here. Now here is the roof. And we are going to put our vellum on this section here. Now this is just the bones of the roof, not the actual top part. Let's start off like this and then just do a few little dots in between these little cutouts. And just make sure that you get it nice and centered. Try not to encroach past the little score mark there. So it does help to fold at the score marks and get those creases to be nice and pronounced to help you with the placement of the vellum. And the last one here. I think that's good. And nice and centered. Make sure it is within the confines of the black area. Okay, so let's put together the main structure here. And I'm just going to put these side by side. We're going to connect this one to this one here using this long tab. So let's fold that back and apply our glue to our tab here. Get that glue out to the edge, and I'm going to spread that nice and thin all the way out to the perimeter here. Okay, and lay that down flat. Grab your other piece. Make sure that it's nice and aligned at the bottom. Should be nice and flush there, here, and then up here as well. Give that a good initial press. Hold that down for a second, then you can take it and fold it over onto itself, and you should see how these two pieces line up nicely. So we're going to be able to work on this flat when it comes time to put the panels on. Make sure that that's got a good hold. Okay, and we can take this and grab our glue. Get our glue on the next tab here. Spread that out to the edge. Now remember, this is going to be hidden by some panels, so if you do accidentally have a little bit of glue that spills over onto the surface, it's not the end of the world. And flatten that tab out. Bring this over. Should just fall into place naturally. There we go. That looks good. I'm going to take it and I'm going to fold it over onto that seam that we just glued together. And there we go. Okay, perfect. Now, while we have this flat, let's see here. I don't see the harm in that. You're going to put these panels on, just these two. Let's just do these two here, the trapezoid shaped ones. The ones that have the little bits of detail kind of hanging off, let's ignore those for now. We're just going to glue these down, and these are actually, these are full size, so these are going to go all the way out to the very edges and literally be nice and flush with the entire black section here, from corner to corner, edge to edge. Okay, it's going to fit on exactly how it needs to. So let's get our glue on this guy. Get it kind of thin on this. Don't overdo it. You don't want to warp the paper here. This is our final layer that is going to be showing on the exterior of our little outhouse. So go easy with the glue. And we got to work kind of quick though before that glue starts to set. I think that'll do it. So, you know, this part where I started here just a second ago, it's already starting to set. So we may need to go in and do some cleanup, and that's okay. I'm kind of looking at where this little eyeball is cut out, and I'm using that as a guide for my initial placement, and then kind of just adjusting everything else to make sure that I've got it where it needs to be, and that's pretty darn good. Okay, work your fingers around the perimeter. Press and hold that down. Good. Okay, there we go. So there's one side, and this side, yeah, it looks okay. All right, so we can go over to the other side here and get the other side in place. And we're going to put the black part of the roof on and then work on the rest of it here. So again, make sure that you're hitting the perimeter of this. Go pretty thin on the glue. I would say kind of a medium thickness. Like so. And I'm going to use these two eyeballs here as sort of my initial guide for placement. And then just kind of move things around as necessary to make sure that it matches up with the rest of the cutouts. Like that. There we go. Now normally I would maybe use a brayer to flatten this out, but it is embossed, and sometimes if you add too much pressure to something that's embossed, it will kind of get rid of the embossing, and we don't want to lose that nice texture that we have there. So I'm just using my hands, and that's fine, not a big deal. Okay, all right, so we got the two sides in place. We'll worry about that in just a second, but for now, I'm going to put the roof on. Okay, and the best way to do this, actually, we can kind of start flat here. Now, you'll notice that on this piece here, there's a little F that is cut into it. That indicates front, okay? And this is our front here. So we want the F facing forward, facing the front, which means that we're going to start by gluing this to this tab here. So let's get our glue on this tab. And I'm not overly concerned about being perfect with the gluing on this. I'm not worried about getting it all the way out to the edge because we got another piece that will be going over this. I just want to make sure that I have my F going the right way. Where's my F? There's my F. This is the front. So we're going to glue this. Let me move this out of the way. Get these tabs out of your way. And pop that right into place. Make sure it's nice and centered. right there. And it may help to move that out of the way as well. Just like that. So you can get your hand under there. Get that nice and lined up. There we go. Just press and hold. Make sure that sets nicely. This side here, I think it'll still stick, but it is getting really, it's not as tacky anymore, but yeah, it's fine. Just hold that. Make sure it sets. You can actually put that down on your surface now and press from the inside to really get it to stick. Okay. So far, so good. And there we have it. Okay. Now, we're going to work our way across. And on the center, and then we'll bring it back down like so. And that looks nice. Okay, so next up, let me move this out of the way. Get our glue on these tabs here, these first two on this side. Okay, and I'm gonna kind of spread that glue a little bit. There we go. And just get that nice and lined up. If you need to, you can stick your hand inside there and give that a little press. Same with this side here. Again, all this is going to be nice and covered up, so don't worry about how it looks. Just make sure that it's structurally sound and that everything is nice and lined up and in place. Okay, and then we can take the center part and fold it back like that and put our glue on this tiny little tab here. And you know what we could probably do at this point is just close this thing up. So let's try that. Let's get our glue on the remaining tabs here. And again, this is just structural. It's not, no one's actually going to see this, so don't worry about perfection at this point. Don't need to worry about it. And we'll fold that over, bring that down, and just make sure that you get it nice and lined up with the other side. If you need to push these walls in a little bit, feel free to do so. And just hold that in place until it sets. Okay. Looks good from here. That needs to go in a little bit more. That part looks fine. Perfect. And just be patient while that sets. And yeah, almost there. Coming together, and we're hopefully going to be right around the 1 hour mark here. Now I do have a little area there. This section here didn't really take very well, so I'm just going to throw a little bit of glue on a scrap piece of paper and just tuck it in between these two layers. Just kind of paint a little bit of glue on there and just press and hold that down until it's fully settled. Just like that. And take a look at the other side. Yeah, it's good enough. Again, structural, not going to really see it too much. Don't need to obsess about how it looks. All right, so now that we've got this thing mostly put together, I'm going to go ahead and put the other, in this case, I think this is toffee? What color is this? Truffle. This is truffle. Okay, and instead of putting glue on this actual section, we're going to put glue on this guy here, on the actual structure, so we know exactly where to put it, because you know this truffle piece, this brown piece that we're putting on right now, kind of goes beyond the border, the perimeter of this piece that I'm putting glue on right now, so we wouldn't know exactly where to stop putting our glue. This way we avoid any unsightly glue coming out from behind this section here. Okay, again, I'm using the eyeballs as my initial guide for placement, and then the rest of it just kind of falls into place. And if you have a little bit of the black showing, I think that's actually kind of cool. So you can put this down on your surface, stick your hand inside and press down from the inside to really help that gel. And you can see here, there's a little bit of the brown sticking off. So if we were to put glue on this, we wouldn't know exactly where to put it. So I think it was just better to put it on the actual structure itself. And there you go. Okay, we got a little bit of glue that seeped out under here, but that's fine. I'm not gonna stress out about that. And finally, our other tab here. Clean off my glue nozzle. Same thing. And you can see that I've got a little, it's not totally perfect up here. There's a little bit of a gap, but again, it doesn't even matter. This is Halloween, and that's just part of the structure. Not even gonna see it. No sense in stressing out about that. And that's why all the little panels that we add to this really, well, they're forgiving, I'll tell you that. I'm gonna put a little bit around the door here so that this doesn't come pulling away around the door. Okay, and again, just find something to, I'm gonna look at this guy here, this little cutout here, and use that as my guide. And of course you can look at the doorway. Okay, there you have it. Just pop that right into place. That looks good to me. Put that down on my surface and press from the inside. Get that to gel nicely. Here we go. Looking good. And there you have it. Okay, so let's go ahead and, how's that part? I'm gonna throw a little bit of glue up at the top here. It's not really sticking. Just using a little bit of scrap and just painting a little bit of glue in this little problem area right up here that is kind of pulling off a little bit. And that's perfect. Okay, let's take a look at our roof. And this is pretty straightforward. What we're gonna do is we're gonna put glue on these tabs here and glue them behind the main part of our roof to create the exact slope that we need. So go ahead and get your glue on this tab here. Pull that glue out to the very perimeter here, the very edge. And just line that up as accurately as you can, just like so. And we can go to the other side here. Well, let's be patient, because that's actually not even, it's not even sticking yet. There we go. Peel that back, go over to the other tab on the same side. Doesn't matter if you go to the same side or if you go to the opposite side. We'll all end up at the same result here in just a bit. Okay, and get that in place. And if you want, you can use the dowel to really get into that corner there, because that's really where we want the majority of the contact to be made. So everything looks nice and seamless right there. Perfect. And then we'll take it on over to this side, get our glue on the next tab. I went a little heavy there, it's okay. I'll just spread her out. And pop that right behind it. Get that nice and lined up. Put that down on my surface. Use that dowel to get right up along that edge. Beautiful. And that just leaves one more little tab here, and it may be a little difficult to get your glue in there, but you should be able to get that a good bend and it should be fine. Spread that glue out. There we go. And tuck that right back there. There we go. Cool. Okay, so again, this one here also, we have a letter F here, and that again signifies the front. Okay, so we want to make sure that when we glue this down, glue it down like so. And we do want to make sure that we center this. Okay, you'll notice that it kind of there's a little bit of an overhang on both sides. Okay, so you can see how that side here, there's a little bit of a gap here, and then also here. So just try to center that as best as you can. And essentially what we're going to do to make that happen is we're going to put, I'm going to go pretty, not heavy, but generous amount of glue there. And then I would just focus on the glue on the sides here. Definitely on the sides. And then maybe just a little bit here and there. Definitely go on the sides. Like that. Okay, make sure that you've got the letter F facing the front. And of course, you're going to have to want to, well, actually, a great way to make sure you've got it in the right spot is to make sure that these little cutouts here line up with the cutouts on the actual structure. So get that in place, hold it down, make sure it's making good contact here around the areas with the cutouts, because we do want that light to really shine through. Okay. And I may even go in and hit this with a little bit more ink just to make it look a little more spooky too. I think I did pretty good with the ink, but hey, you know what? With a Halloween project like this, you can never have enough. Okay, so that looks cool. All right, and let's take a look and see what that looks like on our structure, on our little base. There you have it. Okay, and at this point, you can start, you can start putting things on the roof. Start adding all of our little embellishments. And this is the fun part, because the hard work's done. Here we can just start just kind of decorating things. And I'm going to begin by grabbing our little boards here. And you can see up at the top here, there's a little cutout right here that matches that guy there. And then the rest of this, let me see. Yeah, that's going to go. There's also little markers here to show you where this one goes. So that one's going to go there like so. And I'm going to use my new foam squares to give that some dimension. So let's do that. You don't have to use foam squares. You can glue it down flat, but the foam squares are absolutely going to add some interest to it. And I kind of like these. They come in different sizes. I'm going to use the tiny ones here. And they're black, so they hide much better than the white ones. I'll do one on each side and then one in the center, and I think that ought to do it. I don't need to overdo it on the foam squares here. I think 3 will be plenty. Okay, so again, just kind of match it up with the guide down here and the cutout there, like so. There we go. Okay. So you can see where this one's going to go. Now, because we're double layering this section here, I'm going to put a pop dot or a foam square here. It's only going to need 1, but I'm going to put 2 towards the end. Okay, so we can actually, just to simplify things, if we run this across here and leave it there, we know that we need a foam square here to hold that up. I'll peel that off. And then we only need, I'm going to double them up here on the ends. We'll do 2 on this side, and then we'll do 2 on this side. And that should get us where we need to go as far as this is concerned. Perfect. There we go. Okay. So that's kind of what the back's going to look like. We've got another couple little elements here. So we have this piece that we need to glue on. Okay, and that's going to go on first because we do have a ghost that we need to glue onto the back as well. So let's get our glue on this piece here. Like so. That should be good enough. And this does extend beyond the, so to speak, shadow part of the brown section that we're gluing this to, or gluing it to, not glowing. I've got Halloween on my mind. Everything's glowing. Okay, so that's that. That's the side, that looks nice. And then our ghost, this guy, okay, this guy's gonna get glued to this little section here. And actually you can kind of see, this little section. As you go like this. It's gonna go like this. Okay, so we do need to kind of bend his body back a little bit so that he doesn't obstruct the little roof. So you may need to bend this a little bit, but this little bump here, that is the bump for his tail. And that's where his tail is going to go. So, actually, you know what? Hold on a second. Is that right? Yeah, but it kind of comes down more like this. There we go. Okay. Yep. So it's a little bit more like that, in which case I'm going to fold this back a little bit more. And it's going to go... Oh, and actually you can see here, I'll point it out, this little tip right here, right there, there's a little tip, and that's the tip of his tail, so that you know where that goes too. And that's going to go like that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and glue this down actually. And I'm going to put glue... Well, let's put glue on this guy here. I'm going to put glue on the tip of his tail, and then I'm just going to throw a little bit of glue right in this area here. And I think that will hold him. So just line that up with that little tiny section of his tail, bring it up to about that spot there, and press and hold so you can see what that's going to look like from the front. There we go. It's kind of coming out. And we can always fold this guy up so he's not so laid back. No one wants a laid back ghost. I don't. I want my ghost to freak me out. Okay. All right, so you get the idea here. Now we got that ghost coming out the back. And that's it for the back part. So we can go over to the front. And the front is going to take, where'd the other piece go? Oh yeah, there she is. I'm going to glue this down right onto the front. Okay, whoops. Yep, that's going right on the front here. So go ahead and get your glue on this section here. There we go. And work some of that glue up around, right up to the edges here. Maybe a little more there. There we go. And get this in place. Just match it up with the existing brown little shadow area there. Take a look at it from the top too. Make sure that it's nice and flush with the roof line. So far that looks great. Okay, if you want, you can actually put a dowel under there so that you can push down on something. Help that really get a hold. There we go. Okay, that looks great so far. Look at that. Okay, and we can take our beware sign. Our beware sign is going to go right here. We're going to foam square this as well. And you can see the little parts that are kind of hanging off of the very edge of the brown panel here. That is where we want to line this up with. It's like a little shadow layer so that you know exactly where it needs to go. We'll get that on there. Hopefully, and I'm sure you did a great job with your beware. Okay, there you go, there's that. And now we can move on to the door. And the door is also going to be foam squared. We're going to foam square the door, and then we've got, let me see here. supposed to put? I guess it doesn't matter. All right, so we're gonna flip this around and we're actually gonna be foam squaring this, most of it, to, well, various parts. Some of it's gonna go onto the vellum, some of it is gonna go onto the structure, and I just wanna make sure that I get enough foam squares on here to really make sure that this thing is holding on nice and tight. And then we're gonna put one right about here on the ghost's body. And we can peel these off. I really like these. The backing on these comes off very easily. So that's nice. Okay. And then what you can do when it comes time to put this down is you'll notice that there's a little bit, well, there's some markers here. And those markers are for the little door hinge. And there's also some markers on the door so that you know where the door hinge goes. So essentially what you want to do is try to make sure that you get those lined up pretty close together. Okay. And also want to make sure that you are in fact covering up the vellum portion. Okay, and I think, let me see, does that look good? I think that looks pretty good. Could have used an extra foam square in here. I don't think it's too late to pop one in there. I'm just going to do that. I'm going to throw another one right here. And it doesn't even matter if you take the, well, actually, yeah, it does. I'm just going to peel this back and there we go. Not ideal, but made it work. Okay, there you go. There's that. Our ghost back there is looking good. Now, I can go ahead and I'm going to glue, well, we got a couple things to glue here. I've got this little guy, and he is going to go right here. And I'm thinking that we're going to foam square that because I want to create as much dimension on this as I can. I think that'll look really cool. Okay, so that's going to go here. There's a little bit of a shadow element there on the door already. And then on the right side, there's some markers to help you with the positioning of that. I think I got that pretty spot on. Okay, and let me see here. Oh, I could have maybe even used another foam square there, but I think it looks great. Okay, so we're going to glue our hinges down. Now, one thing that you may encounter, and it depends on the thickness of your foam squares, is, well, the height of the door may not be exactly how this little hinge was designed. So what I would suggest doing is gluing the first part of the hinge onto the door, letting that set, and then you can always just kind of, well, just get creative and make the rest of it just kind of work. So I'm gluing the first parts of the hinge in place. Okay. Let that completely cure. Put the door in place next here, or the handle, I should say. Okay, and I may as well throw a little foam square on that. Let me see how big this is. I'm gonna actually cut this in half because it's a little bit too big. Throw a tiny little one there. Get rid of that. Okay, and you can see the little cutouts there to help with placement of the handle, so you can see how that works. Let these little hinges completely set, and then if you want to, you can see here where the head of our ghost meets the little part of the roof. You can throw a little foam square on there, and that needs to be moved over a bit so that he's not flailing around. You can certainly just pop a little foam square on there and then glue his head to it so he's a little more permanent in that little section. Let's see what else we have. I'm going to come back to the hinges here in a second, but on top of the roof, we do have these guys here, and we're going to glue these down just maybe a little bit towards the top. But first, I want to take and I want to kind of fold these back and kind of make them look like they're peeling off. Okay, so just take your dowel or whatever it is and just curl them a little bit. Okay, And then we can take our glue, just put a little bit of glue right up at the top. We don't need a ton of glue on this. Maybe I'd say the first third or so, okay? And then our first one is gonna go right here. You can see that there are little markers there to help guide you with positioning on that. And that's that, okay? On this side, on the right side of the roof here, there's gonna be a large one and then two small ones. It doesn't really matter which two you grab, so grab whatever works. You've got a total of 4 small little shingles. Just use any 2, and then there's a little guide here telling you to pop that right there. And then we'll grab one more. There's a little markers up here telling you to put them right up there. Just throw a tiny little bit of glue right up at the top. On these smaller ones, you could probably just put glue on the first quarter of it, first fourth of it maybe, like that. And then we'll go over to the other side. We'll grab our large one, and the large one's gonna go up at the top left corner. So let's go ahead and fold this back, make it look like it's peeling off, like the wind got a hold of it. Obviously no one's painted or stained this in who knows how long. That's okay. Again, I'm not planning on using this bathroom, so. Okay, so pop that one right in between those little markers there. There we go. Grab another small one, give it a little bit of a curve. Throw some glue on there. And pop it right into place here using these little markers. You could put it anywhere you want. This is just, it's done in a way so that we don't block out too much of the light that's going to be coming through the little cutouts for the vellum. So I would certainly just follow along with what we have here if you want the optimal effect. Okay, so there's that, and that looks really cool. Okay, one more thing here. We have this grass that's going to go along the sides here. Okay, that's just going to get glued to the bottom, and then I'm going to take and actually kind of flail these out, just train them back towards you a little bit. Give this a little bit of dimension, and then take our glue and put your glue on just the bottom part here, up to about there. Get that nice and flush with our bottom. Okay, just like that. Give that a nice press. And I'll flip that over. Same thing with the other side. Okay. A little bit of glue right at the base. Don't need to overdo it. Line that up nice and flush with the bottom, like so. And press that down into place. There we go. Okay, now one last thing here, we did this a little bit ago, is our little bat. And the little bat at this point, I'm gonna trim this off. And I'm probably actually gonna trim this off even more. What we wanna do is just kind of stick this through one of the little areas in the back where we have, just kind of shove that in there. You can hot glue it or whatnot. Okay, and our bat is just gonna be kind of dangling. You get the idea, you just kind of want a dangling little bat coming off there. And I'm gonna mess with this a little bit more just to get him in the right spot, because I do have to photograph this. I wanna make sure that everything is somewhat together and he's not too far out, but you get the idea. And if you want to just glue him to the structure itself, you can do that too, or whatever you want to do with him. Just a little bonus, little piece there, which is cute. And then finally, back to the little hinge. Now that this is all set, just take and put a little dot of glue on the back part of the section that's not connected to the door, and kind of just pop it in there like that. You have to kind of push it down a little bit, and you might have to push it in a little bit, and that'll kind of force the paper to get into the height that it needs to be in order to work with, there we go, to get into the spot that we want it at too. Okay, so there you go. Yeah, guys, that's it. Wow, okay. Let's put them on our base, and I should probably just go get a light and see what this thing looks like. Let me do that real quick. Okay, so here is our submersible LED, and we'll pop that right into place. Perfect size for that. Turn her on. Oh yeah, super cool. You can see the end result there. And you can always change the color on this too. But anyway, hope you enjoyed the tutorial. I had fun with this. Very happy with the way it came out. Hope you are too. Can't wait to see your Beware and your version of this. And if you enjoyed the video, please take a moment and visit our YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button. And while you're there, hit the little bell so that you get notifications anytime we release a new video. And if you make this or anything else from our latest bundle, visit us in the official group on Facebook. Do a search for Dreaming Tree Group, or you can type in this little URL here that you'll see at the bottom of your screen. It'll take you right there where you can join myself and the almost 23,000 other dreamers that inspire us daily. So anyway, happy Halloween. Hopefully you love this, and I know whoever you give it to, or if you keep it for yourself, they're gonna love it too. And as always, I look forward to crafting with you again.